recognized symbol of excellence for your entertainment.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Welcome to Machino Music, the show that puts some music in Machino music, with your host, me, Brett Strong. Today on Machino Music, it's my favorite Saturday Night Live musical performances. We've got a great show. Stick around, we'll be right back. Okay, here we go. My favorite Saturday Night Live musical performances. If I didn't say musical performances at the top, it's because I'm a bumbo. But, because I can't remember if I did. I might have just said performances. But, been watching Saturday Night Live since the 90s. I'm like a 90s Saturday Night Live guy. Actually, since the 80s. I like late 80s I started watching Saturday Night Live. Didn't know what I was watching. But, I've since, just still watched the show. And a lot of these performances I saw for the first time on a 1993 special. It's also in clip forms. The special was Wayne and Garth's Music A Go-Go during Wayne's World Mania. And then later I saw the full performances on the DVDs. So like the first 5 years collection they put out. And also like on reruns. Also Internet Archive was a big help in putting together this list. So let's get right into it here. These are 10, and it doesn't really matter. They're not really ranked in any particular way. I just kind of, my favorite performances. Number 10, from April 5th, 1980. The hosts are Richard Benjamin and Paula Prentice. There's a blast from the past. The musical guest is the Grateful Dead. I'm not a huge, gigantic Grateful Dead fan, but I do really like the Grateful Dead. We got a lot of great songs, and this performance, they performed once before, but this performance, they do my favorite Grateful Dead tune, which is Alabama Getaway. So, love that song. This performance is what got me into that song. Also, Saint of Circumstance they perform, another great tune. Yeah, really dig that Grateful Dead performance. Next up at number 9. November 4th, 1978. The host is Steve Martin, classic host. And the musical guest is Van Morrison. Again, not a gigantic Van Morrison fan. I mean, Brown Eyed Girl, I've heard like a million times, always plays. But he performed my favorite Van Morrison song, the song Wavelength. He also performed a song called Kingdom Hall. But it's all about that song, the wavelength. And this particular performance, he never performed the song this way ever again. He's doing this. And I love that performance. And I saw it on the Wayne and Garth special, just that one little thing. I said, well, this is so good. Then I found, the studio version. Hear the studio version. He doesn't sing it that way. Watched other live performances, never sung it that way. Something about that performance, of just his energy and just how he was singing it. That always stuck with me. Loved that performance. So it had to be on my list because of that. Like, he never did it that way ever again. And also, he never, Van Morrison's not a good-looking guy. But, he's wearing, really tight jeans. And, you can see, a big bulge. That always stuck with me, too. And he's, kind of, moving it around. That did something to me. Let's move on. All right, number 8. January 26, 1980. The host is Terry Garr. Love Terry Garr. Musical guest is the B-52s. Now, I've done a show about the B-52s, love the B-52s. This is what got me into the B-52s, was this performance. And they performed Rock Lobster and Dance This Mess Around. The performance of Rock Lobster, it's the first time I ever saw the B-52s. Just seeing that for the first time, seeing Ricky Wilson doing that guitar riff, and like, oh, that sounds cool. And then Cindy Wilson doing that weird thing, and Fred Schneider singing, just like,
Everybody have matching cows.
like, what is this? This is the most strange thing. And Saturday Night Live did that a lot in the early years, like in the 70s, especially the first 5 years, and a bit into the early 80s. But especially in the 70s, everything was like more experimental. They were putting on these kind of weird bands because they didn't like, now it's more about, and it kind of started in the late 80s and it more into the 90s, about putting on whatever is like popular at the time. Like, we can get a rating. People might not care about the host, or if we have a superstar host, have a superstar musical act as well. So it was kind of more like just like popping a rating. But in the early years of the show, they would have some, like, they're huge bands now, but at the time they were like considered so strange. Like the B-52s. And maybe a couple others on this list that we'll get to. But yeah, love that B-52s performance. So cool. Next at number 7. February 2nd, 1985. The host is Alex Karras. Most people don't remember him. He was the dad on Webster. That's all I remember him from, really. He's also in Blazing Saddles. But the dad on Webster was how I knew him. The musical guest, though, is Tina Turner. The legendary Tina Turner. She does What's Love Got to Do With It, Better Be Good to Me, and Private Dancer. I mean, I had to put it. Just such an amazing performance. It was like Tina Turner, like, at her biggest. I mean, she's so iconic. And here's this great performance on Saturday Night Live. She appeared again, I think, like in the late 90s or like early 2000s. But this first appearance, man, the performance especially of Private Dancer is so great. Love it. Such a cool, sensual song, and she looks great, she sounds great. Yeah, Tina Turner had to be on here. Next up at number 6, October 18th, 2003. We're in 2003 now. The host is Halle Berry. Musical guest is Britney Spears. Now again, I'm not really ranking these, they're just my favorite performances. So it's not saying like this is even like better than, like, I don't know. Let me go to this performance. She does Me Against the Music and Every Time. And Every Time I love. It's such a beautiful song. One of my favorite Britney songs. And it's all about that performance. That performance of Every Time has always stuck with me because I think it really shows, like, wow, like Britney, like really singing. Here she is, like live television, and she sounds great. And Me Against the Music, I like that tune, but it's like the performance is pretty good here. But Madonna song on that, Madonna's not on it. So that song without Madonna, it's like, I take it or leave it. But the performance of Every Time, that's what got that on my list. It's just like so beautiful, love it. And Halle Berry was the host, so there you go. That's an example of like a superstar host and superstar musical guest. And Britney Spears was the host and musical guest on a couple occasions before this, so she was a friend of the show. All right, we're in the top 5 now. Again, no real order. I mean, I just I feel like I'm ranking this. I'm not really. I mean, I just want to talk about these performances, so just best to number them. So just they're numbered, not really ranked. Number 5, April 12th, 1997. Host is Rob Lowe. The musical guest is the Spice Girls. This was a big deal because this is the beginning of Spice Girls Mania. As you know, I'm a huge Spice Girls fan, and this was one of the first times I like really saw them. I had seen the videos, but this was like the first like kind of performance that I saw of them, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. Of course, they performed Wannabe and my favorite Spice Girls song, Say You'll Be There. They look great, so much fun, and that's a good looking panel of guests right there. Rob Lowe and the Spice Girls. Okay.
You wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friend.
But yeah, Spice Girls had to be on here. Next up, number 4, February 28th, 1987. The host is Valerie Bertinelli. Love Valerie Bertinelli. But who'd she bring along? She was married to Eddie Van Halen at the time, so she brought him along as a special guest. He performed with G.E. Smith and the Saturday Night Live Band. They performed a song called Stompin' 8H. Now, this is the first time, like, once again, this Wayne's World special, they showed the little clip of Eddie Van Halen. This is the first time I ever saw his guitar playing, and it didn't compute at the time. I was like, what is he doing? Like, what tapping the string? Who does that? So that kind of really introduced me to Eddie Van Halen. Like, I had heard his name, like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, because, you know, Wild Stallions would never be a super band until they have Eddie Van Halen on guitar. Who is this Eddie Van Halen guy? See him on this performance. It's like, this is crazy. This is who Eddie Van Halen is. And of course, after that, I got huge into Eddie Van Halen. But that was my first exposure, this Saturday Night Live performance, to the majesty of King Edward. Yeah, so, yeah, this had to be on there. And also, this episode has a really funny sketch where it's Valerie Bertinelli and Eddie Van Halen having a dinner party. It's like dinner with the Van Halens. And it's then having people over, and there's like roadies running all around. And then Valerie eventually just blows her stack because she's just tired of it. So yeah, really funny sketch. So I really dug that. They're having some fun with their crazy life. All right, number 3, December 15th, 1979. The host is Martin Sheen. He wasn't a very good host. But the musical guest, David Bowie. Again, this is like one of those things you see and go, what is this? This is insane. Like, who, like, Man Who Sold the World, TVC 15, and Boys Keep Swinging were the songs he performed. The Man Who Sold the World performance is like really strange. You got kind of this like almost like this tuxedo, but it's like a parachute. It's got performance artist Klaus Nomi performing with him. He was a German expressionist like opera singer, but he was kind of involved with like the new wave scene, so he was there with David Bowie. And it's just the most bizarre thing, but it was like... And the performance of Boys Keep Swinging is really fun. It's like David Bowie behind like a blue screen, no green screen yet, so he's chroma keyed on a blue screen with like a little puppet body on it. So he's like swinging around this little puppet body, and it's like the strangest thing, but it's so cool. But yeah, the Bowie performance had to be on there, had to be on this list. We're in the top 2, everybody. Okay, and talk about another performance that just kind of blows your mind. Like, what is this? This does not compute. Devo, October 14th, 1978. The host is Fred Willard, the great Fred Willard. Devo, the musical guest. They performed I Can't Get No Satisfaction and Jocko Homo. Again, they're their mutated cover of I Can't Get No Satisfaction. It's just like, it's so bizarre. And they look bizarre. It's like, I can't imagine like people who saw this for the very first time in the 70s. When it was kind of like, oh, okay, everything was kind of out there. Like, I saw it in the 90s and was like, didn't know what to make of it. But, I mean, this performance is so cool. And actually, Devo got into a lot of trouble because first they didn't even want, like, Lorne Michaels wanted no part of them. Jerry Casale had sent a tape of Devo to be like acceptance to, saying, they just threw it in the garbage. Hell with this. Unsolicited, what is this crap? So eventually their manager got them a show with the promise. That was a big spit I just did right there. With the promise that Neil Young would appear on the show. Well, Neil Young didn't appear until like well into the 80s. But they had to get Devo. Devo got on the show, and they made Lorne Michaels really mad, like pretty well right away, because they insisted on showing their own film, their We're All Devo film that they showed before Jocko Homo. Lorne Michaels was not happy with that. Nobody showed film. No outsider showed films. They had their own in-house guys. First season they had Albert Brooks making films. They had Gary Weiss. They had Tom Schiller doing his Schiller's Reel. They didn't need anyone else bring anything in. Devo did it. Big no-no. They've been banned. Never appeared ever again. And yeah, but it's still such a memorable performance. So great. And just, that's what really got me into Devo. And Fred Willard is hilarious. Now, number one for me, it had to be the show that was before this Devo performance, and kind of also made Lorne Michaels pretty mad when they did I Can't Get No Satisfaction. October 7th, 1978, the Rolling Stones. They're the host and musical guest on this episode. They do a monologue, actually. The monologue was done by Ed Koch, who was the mayor of New York at the time, and also John Belushi came out and did a little bit with them because he was just coming off of Animal House, which is his big breakthrough in film, so he was kind of making a big... So that was kind of the opening. The Rolling Stones didn't do the monologue. But really, it's all about the musical performances. I mean, their performance... They do Beast of Burden, Respectable, and Shattered all throughout there. They're promoting my favorite Rolling Stones album, Some Girls. And I mean, that performance of Beast of Burden is just like stuck in my brain. Just Mick Jagger in like this white jacket, like tuxedo jacket. He's got like a beret kind of golf hat with like a pom-pom sticking up down this red shirt that says Beast on it. And he's doing the whole Mick Jagger thing, the pointing, you know.
I shut it off. There's one thing, baby.
Like, who is this? I got so into the Rolling Stones because of that. And especially that album, Some Girls. So it was just a big deal of Rolling Stones. And when Lorraine Newman introduces, one of the great cast members, Lorraine Newman, she introduces the Rolling Stones, the roof blows off the dump. That was like a big deal, getting the Rolling Stones. They were like the biggest thing going at that time. And of course, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and the whole had made appearances. They've been good friends of the show. Mick Jagger was just on recently on the episode with Bad Bunny as the host. Yeah, I don't get Bad Bunny. But Mick Jagger was there. So yeah, those are my 10 favorite Saturday Night Live performances. I could have done more. Like I watched so many episodes of the show, like watching DVDs and just Internet Archive. I was just like watching. Like I could have put more, but we would here all day. And I had a different version of this list that was a complete mess. I could barely read it. Like I gotta move this here. I gotta scratch this out, move this. It was just a mess. I couldn't do it. So I had to pick 10, and I think these are, happy with this. Saturday Night Live is such a great exposure, at least it was for me, of like all kinds of music, and like a big reason why I love all kinds of music and can respect all kinds of music is because of the music performances on Saturday Night Live. And I'm so thankful for that Wayne and Garth special that got me into so many of these bands who to this day are some of my all-time favorite bands and artists. So if you're a fan of the musical performance on Saturday Night Live, some of these are your favorites, and some of these are your favorite bands and artists, I hope you enjoyed this. Oh, it's been a great week. It's been a great show. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to do it again. Until next time, this is Brett Strong saying, good journey.